We're gonna have a time for some questions
But is that
later.
online? Is
Later
the
on.
presentation online?
We're now broadcasting on Facebook. So you'll be able to download it on Facebook, and we're also going to try to broadcast it on our cable channel as well. Yes. Let's welcome Betty Donavanik.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I just want to go over the cannabis regulations for our city. So as the mayor mentioned, after approximately 2 years of public outreach, including study sessions with the city council, the planning commission, and also a citywide town hall meeting that was conducted in September of 2017, which had approximately 250 people attend, we adopted our cannabis regulations. And what this regulation does is that it prohibits all retail, whether it be adult use or medicinal uses within the city. So that includes deliveries, which I'll get to in a minute, but any types of storefront or dispensaries or microbreweries are all prohibited. And what is allowed is the medicinal uses that include cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and testing. And as the mayor mentioned, just of this year, deliveries cannot be prohibited by any cities. So any of the operators that are operating within the city cannot deliver. However, any outside agency or any outside operators that do have state licenses can deliver into any city. We established regulations including a conditional use permit and the development agreement process for any of the licenses that are requested. And this has to be reviewed by the Planning Commission and the City Council. There are 3 areas within the city in which these operations are allowed to be conducted. And the first one is in the northwest area of our city, and this has been a manufacturing, distribution, industrial area since the 1950s. So this is existing industrial uses in which the cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution of cannabis would be appropriate for this zone as it is an industrial use. The next one is the East Valley, and this allows for cultivation, manufacturing, testing, and distribution as well. And then also the last area is the Flair zone, which is allowed for testing only. Under state law, the cannabis operations cannot be located closer than 600 feet to any schools. And that would include any schools from K through 12, including private schools, any daycare centers, and youth centers. And after working with the public, we did increase this distance to 800 feet. So this would provide for a larger buffer area from the schools to these uses. This is a map of the zoning, the city's zoning map, which shows the 3 areas, and I'll go into greater detail. So this is the northwest area, which is north of the railroad, south of Lower Azusa Avenue, west of Shirley Drive, and east of Temple City Boulevard. And this area, like I mentioned, has been in industrial uses since the 1950s. These are some visuals of existing manufacturing industrial buildings within this area. The operators that will be coming in will be doing upgrades to the buildings, including landscaping and cleaning up, whether it be exterior remodels or anything to help with the current existing blight of this area. The East Valley area is where Valley and Garvey meet, and it is west of Durfee. And this area has existing uses is mainly auto repair uses. And so this area will be cleaned up as well. There are vacant properties, as you see, that could be improved with the development of these activities. The last area is Flair Park, and this is along the 10 freeway and Flair. And this area, because of its office uses, are designated for testing areas only. And these are some examples of the buildings that are currently within Flair Park. So to go over the permit and public hearing process, each of the cannabis operators have to go through a very detailed and rigorous process through the city. The first one would be they would have to submit their application to the city, and this includes a thorough background check by the city's police department. They would have to submit any of their documents, including their security plan, their safety plan, their business plan to the city, and also their draft development agreement. This would be reviewed by staff. After it has been deemed to be complete and includes everything, then we would pass it on to our third-party reviewer. This third-party reviewer is HDL companies, and they work exclusively with cities. And what they do is they would review these applications on a merit-based system. So they would look at the background and experience of the operators, their business plan, the location and neighborhood compatibility, any of the air quality plans, safety and security plans, including also the labor and employment plan that's required by the city, and a community benefits package. So once these have been vetted by the third-party consultant, then they would be reviewed by the city's internal team, and also the police department and the LA County Fire Department. After they've been vetted through this process, then that's when they're allowed to submit for their conditional use permits and their development agreement, which would be reviewed by the Planning Commission and the City Council. And the public hearing notice for this is 500 feet, which typically our conditional use process is typically 300 feet, but we did increase this noticing requirement to provide further outreach to the community. Also part of this review is the CEQA review. So what CEQA looks at is just the physical environmental impacts for these projects. CEQA does not look at any types of social aspects or social impacts. If the project should be approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council, then that's when they would submit for building permits. And this is typical for any other use within the city. So they would submit for their building permits, submit to the fire department, and to the LA County Health Department prior to receiving their final municipal business permit from the city manager. And each of these licenses are only valid for 1 year. So they will have to go through annual renewals. We'll do annual background checks and make sure that they are compliant with all the operating standards that they've been approved under. As I mentioned, conditional use permits are required for each of the licenses. So if you're doing cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution, those would be 3 separate CUPs. And also we require a development agreement that would require fees and also benefits to the community, and also have all the operating terms within this development agreement. Each employee of the cannabis facility also has to obtain a permit from the city. They have to be at least 21 years of age, go through a thorough background check, and they will also have to wear employee badges with their photos that will be issued by the city, so that we know at all times who the employees are of these facilities. We want to make sure that there's no diversion of the products and that the medicinal products that were approved stays medicinal. So a way to do this is through the track and trace system, and this is also required by the state. So what this does is it provides a barcode that would be placed from seed to sale. So what that means is that from the inception of the seed, there'll be a barcode that follows that seed to when it's grown as a plant, to when it's being manufactured as whatever product it may be, whether it be oils or edibles, and also through the testing process, and then through the distribution process to when it's distributed to either the wholesalers or the retailers outside of the city. So this would ensure that there's no diversion of products, and that if there's any testing results or anything like that that come back negatively, then we'll be able to trace it back to the seed or to the plant. And this is required from the city and also from the state as well. In regards to the security plan, a detailed security plan is required, and we'll have a speaker that also will speak to that. And this is for all areas of the facility. So we will require an on-site security guard, and also a direct live feed security camera system that can be accessed by the city's police department. So at any time, the city's police department can tap into the system and to see the activities that are occurring within the facility. Also is required is a safety plan, and this is mainly for the manufacturing uses. This would be required to be reviewed by the LA County Fire Department as well. Each machine or each thing that's being used to manufacture also has to be inspected by the city and also from the fire department prior to starting of operations. There's a lot of questions in regards to cannabis waste disposal as well. And the city is requiring, and the state also requires, that any cannabis waste be rendered unrecognizable. So what they would have to do is they would have to incinerate the cannabis waste and mix it in with soil for disposal. And we are requiring that the cannabis waste be separated from the regular non-cannabis waste and placed in secured trash enclosures. And the cannabis operators are also required to contract with a state licensed cannabis waste hauler to ensure that none of the cannabis waste is diverted. And they would have to provide this contract to the city so that we can verify, and then also the state licensed hauler would also have to provide their information to the city as well. In regards to the air quality plan, it is required that no odors escape from the building. So there's different ways to do this using carbon filters, air scrubbers, and negative air pressure, and we will have a speaker that will speak to that as well. So if there's any time that any of the residents or any of the buildings or facilities or businesses nearby can sense odor, then they would let the city know and then would enforce that. But the buildings will be constructed and rehabbed to ensure that no odors escape from the building. Also, we want to have ongoing community relations between the operators and the city and the surrounding areas. So each operator is required to provide a community liaison contact information to all, whether it be residents or businesses or property owners within 150 feet of the facility. So this way, if there's any types of issues that may arise, we would be able to have that contact. And that contact is also available to the city as well. So what they'll do is they'll also meet with the city manager on a quarterly basis to ensure that any issues that arise are addressed. And so this is an important component within our regulations. And we also are requiring that they provide a public education packet, and this is in conjunction with the city. So they will work with the city to provide for public education for the community about the cannabis uses. In terms of enforcements and violations, at any time, the police department or any city official can inspect the facilities without notice to ensure that they are complying with the city's regulations. And also any violations could be a misdemeanor, and it also could cause the revocation of their permits. Also, as part of the development agreement process, we would analyze and review the development agreement and facility annually to make sure that they are in compliance with all of our codes and what their permit has been approved for. And with